everyone, this is David Stark from WatcherPass.com, your website for movie reviews, interviews, and recommendations. Today I'm talking to Michael Lovan, the director and co-writer of Murderberry Win. We're going to talk to him in just a second, but first let's check out the trailer, and while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. Helps me out a lot. Thank you.
Let me ask you this. Who hasn't daydreamed about killing someone? Come on, show of hands.
Barrett's not playing to win.
Why do I have to play to win?
Because that's why we play games.
Oh my God. We made the most badass board game ever created. Murderberry Win, you feel me?
We wrote the game on murder. And we can probably win if we play our cards right. What's the point doing all this planning if we're not gonna actually use it?
That's a real person, Adam!
He's not a real person anymore. You think he's got an opinion about all this? You got a take on all this? Oh, you don't? Because you're dead? He's dead, guys.
So thank you so much for joining me. This is Michael Lovan, or is it Michael or Mike?
Michael.
This is Michael Lovan, the director and co-writer of Murderberry Win, which is it's a dark comedy that deals with board games and true crime. And so in anticipation, I wore my dice shirts. I tried to get all ready for this. I'm very excited. This is one of my favorite movies of the year, and I see a lot of movies. So this kind of touched on topics that I'm very interested in. So thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. What a low bar you have set for your favorite.
Well, I mean, given last year as the bar, this year, maybe it'll go up. But no, this was fantastic. So such a breath of fresh air when I was watching this. And I guess the first question, and this is a very important question: is there a real Murderberry Win game? Like, is there an actual one with rules? I mean, I know that there's props, but is there one that you could play from start to finish?
Yeah, absolutely. So I created the board game as I was writing the screenplay. And so mechanically, it is functional. You can actually play it. I wouldn't say that it's like good. It is functional. Like, I was tailoring the rules of the game to coincide with what I wanted in the screenplay rather than the other way around. So it is, technically functional. But, as an aside, in Act 1, VV Stubbs offers some very specific criticisms of the game itself. Those were actual criticisms that came from the actors while doing a play test of the game at the first table reading.
That's awesome.
Because we had never played it before, and I was like, okay, we've just read the script for the first time. Everyone, let's play the game. And they were like, smiling, and then like, little bits of like, it'd be interesting if you could house the cards on the table or house the cards on the game board, or I don't know, just kind of repetitive. And it's just like, they're like, are you going to fix it before filming? Like, no, I'm adding this into the script. So very much a case of art imitating life, imitating art in that sense. But which is to say, it is mechanical, it is functional, but all the criticisms made in the film about the game are all valid because they came from real life criticisms of the game I made.
And I love that. And I love that was in the film because, in some films you might have this, this wonderful game by these genius creators, and it's, it's already perfect. It's better than anything out there. But this one, you had this game that they all loved and they all thought was really good. And then once you kind of start getting some criticisms and seeing, some of the rough edges, that's how you make something really great. And I like that was part of the film as well.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And so you wrote this, you're the co-writer on this, right? How did you all, go about collaborating? Was one person more board games, one person more true crime, or did you just kind of like bounce ideas off of each other? How did that process go about?
Sure. So I'd say that the story is co-written by one of my best friends, and then I wrote the screenplay by myself. And one of my best friends, John Hart, and he and I grew up together playing board games, watching horror movies, watching comedic thrillers together. And one day I was like, John, I'm going to make a movie. And I think that John being very, very critical of everything. Like I could always trust his honesty. And so I was like, let's just develop it together. So we were working together at the time, and we just got in a room for several hours a day, and we were just watching movies and like, spitballing ideas back and forth. And really our interests are very, very similar. So it was never a question of like, taste. Like I had a preference for this and that. We liked all the same things. So we were on the same page the entire time we were developing it. And then in the process of writing and rewriting the screenplay, from that stage on, it was reading that to my wife and taking her feedback. So really, while the story I developed alongside John, the screenplay I wrote with a lot of feedback from my wife, who served as the production designer on the film, and was responsible for the art of the board game itself.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty tight knit, group. Before I had a budget, it was once upon a time going to be played by the trio were going to be played by myself, John, and my wife. Once I decided, no, this needs to be like a real production with like money and like real actors, I was like, sorry, wife, sorry, best friend, like you're fired. And of course they had like a very close finger on the pulse of production as I was getting close to filming it, and they both left a big impression on the film that you have now seen.
And spoiler warning right here. So how did you kill John, and where is he buried, and how did you dispose of his body? I assume that's that was also part of the script as well.
I didn't have to really think too hard when I was writing the screenplay, because I'm like, oh, just like literally do what I did to John,
Yeah,
just
perfect.
like bury him out there in the woods, and I assume no one's going to go up there to that valley anytime soon.
I mean, life imitates art, right? So I guess it makes sense.
Or is that art imitating life in that way? It's back and forth. It's it's a feedback loop here.
It's circular, just like your game.
Yeah. Exactly.
But how did you go? I saw that there was a Kickstarter, and I imagine that there were several rounds of trying to get this film made. You mentioned that before you had a budget, you were gonna use yourself and your wife and your best friend to play the roles, which makes perfect sense. But when you started kind of turning this into a full featured movie, how did you go about getting that making that process? Because this film is, I love it, but it does feel like maybe more of a niche film, a film that maybe is not gonna, it's not going to be a blockbuster. It's going to have a very dedicated group audience, like most board games, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, well, so I again, once upon a time, I was going to shoot this for $20 in the woods with an iPhone before I believed in the idea enough to make it an actual film. But I was at a improv festival in the Bay Area, which is where I live, SF Sketchfest. And I saw a show with one of my favorite improv comedians that my wife had introduced me to, which is Craig Cackowski, who plays VV Stubbs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I talked to my wife, and I'm like, you know what? Wouldn't it be cool if he played a role? And she's like, you should just ask him. And I thought, well, he's not going to respond. He's on Drunk History. He's on Community. He's like got his own like life, his own career. And I sent him the screenplay, and he was into it, and he said he wanted to play the role of Victor von Stubbs. And I'm like, shit, because it's like, I don't have a production company, I don't have money, but I was like, this is it. This is exactly what I need, the boost I need to make this happen. So I did the research into figuring out how I can get a SAG actor as a nobody, which is what I am. And I created a company very quickly. Head Turner Films is my production company. I used my life savings, and I pulled out a lot of loans, and I was like, we're doing this. This is going to be a SAG affiliate production. I'm going to use SAG actors, and every minute of production was from my pocket.
Oh my gosh.
Every dime. it was only in post-production when I was on the last legs and I'd edited the film, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to pay a colorist, I need to pay a post-production sound supervisor, I need to pay the composers. And I was like, I don't want to pay for that too. So I ran a Kickstarter once I had a trailer for the film and everything. I wanted to show I have something, support the completion.
Mhm.
And I got about 11,000 there to help pay off those last outstanding debts. And yeah, that's that. But I mean, I'd say it was absolutely, self-financed indie production through and through. And I never want to do it again. Never want to.
Well,
I never want to pay for my own film again, because that was, it's the burden of financial debt when you don't come from means is a lot, and it took a few years to get out of that debt, and I'm out of it now.
Yeah.
But I didn't like it while I had it.
yeah, and that's such a tough thing, right? Because you obviously believe in the project and you love the project, but then it's your own money, so like it's always this push and pull, right? You're like, well, that would be great for the film, but like, am I gonna be able to pay it off? Is that gonna? Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's so tough. That's
well,
very impressive.
well, thank you. But it also meant, like, because it's my own money, I have to choose like the amount of days that we're going to be filming in advance. Like, and every day you only have X amount of time to get everything done, and get X amount of shots. And you have to really do the math. Like, well, how many shots can I get in a day? How many lighting setups can I do in a day? So it meant being really smart and working with my director of photography and my assistant director, and like pairing up scenes that share similar lighting, and asking the actors, hey, we're gonna just do a little adjustment, but right now we're on page 31. In 20 minutes, we're gonna be on page 65. And it meant really putting a lot of trust in my performers to know where they are at emotionally and where their character is. So that was a way to save a lot of time and get as much done as we did. It was 14 shooting days, which is, for anyone out there that maybe isn't, familiar with standard production times for a film like this, it should be quite a bit longer. But we were pairing up a lot of scenes that had similar lighting, and just going for it. And sometimes it meant telling the actors, we're doing one take, period. We're doing one take and we're moving on.
Oh my gosh.
And they delivered. They
Yeah.
always delivered, because they're incredible. They were pros. But having that pressure on the entire 14 days is, I think, what kind of lends itself to the manic energy in the film. Everyone's exhausted and they're like, everyone's tired, and they're just, working off of straight adrenaline,
Yeah.
which I think works because the story is very much of that temperament. But yeah, this has been a very long-winded answer to your question.
Hey, the more insight, the better. I love hearing it. And that's actually really like a really great point, that this is a stressful situation for the actors. So, you as a brilliant director just made it more stressful for them to bring out their best performances, right?
I think my brilliance was, I think, a smart director hires smart people, and I think I'm maybe smart in the sense that everyone I had on crew and in the cast was at the top of their game and did an amazing job. And were it not for all their hard work, this film would have faltered in 100 different ways. It would have collapsed. The deck of cards is only as strong as, like, how you place them in the deck. I don't think that's an expression, but we're going with it.
You know what? Let's make it one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned how you found Craig Cackowski. What about the rest of the cast? Had you seen them before? Was that more of a traditional kind of casting call, or are they local or anything like that?
Erich Lane, who plays Adam, is one of my best friends.
Awesome. I loved his character.
Dude, he's he was the very first person I met when I went to UCLA for the School of Theater.
Wait, do we have to stop? I didn't realize you went to UCLA.
Oh yeah, I did. Oh, USC. You're a
Mhm.
USC guy. I am so sorry. Okay, well, I guess that's the
Well,
end.
this is a great interview. I mean, maybe check out the film, but I don't know, maybe go see a different film by a USC. Just kidding.
um, well, Eric is a great buddy of mine. We've just stayed in touch for years, and I knew he was still acting, and he was regular on Dear White People, and um, I've always really liked the way he acts, and I've always wanted to see him play a villainous role. And I was like, "Hey, do you want this?" I knew he would say yes before he even read the script, but when he was over the moon for the script, which I was so glad about. Everyone else I did not know, except for Craig, who I had met a few times. Um, Henry Alexander Kelly, who plays Barrett, he was a backstage.com audition, and his audition is one of those where once I saw his audition, I couldn't look at other auditions and not keep thinking, but he didn't do it like he did.
Mhm.
And so I had a vision for who Barrett was as soon as I saw his audition, and I offered him the role really quick. And then Mikelen Walker, who plays Chris, and Brian Slaten, who plays Officer Dan, they were casting recommendations to me by another friend from UCLA, Coco Kleppinger, who is a casting agent. And I just sent her a list of these very specific qualifications. I need to make these characters work, because it won't work unless they're perfectly cast. And first choice was Michael and first choice was Brian for both. And I reached out to them, loved their, every clip I had seen of them in their respective TV shows. And I'm like, yeah, it's got to be them. And none of the five knew each other before the table read. But I think that, it's a testament to all their hard work and their craft that their chemistry is as strong as it is.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because the three friends have to have some sort of chemistry and familiarity, but when you've got 14 days to shoot, I guess they just kind of hit the ground running and just kind of did their roles and did it perfectly. There wasn't much time, it seems like, to get them up to get that camaraderie established outside of that.
Well, they were housed in a family friend's place together. Like, I made sure that the crew was together and the cast were their own entity. At least the three guys were their own space. And after the table read, they all live in Los Angeles. They were meeting up semi-regularly and going over their lines. So they had a little bit of time, about a month, to really put in the work then and there. But when we were on set, between scenes, we would go outside and rehearse the next thing. And I was very specific about blocking in some moments, and I made sure, okay, and then Mikelen, you need to duck down, and then we need to have you duck down, Erich, and I would go over timing with them. And as for the nuances of their characters, that was all them, and trusting them to fill in the blanks and make these characters lovable and relatable.
And I guess another question is, there were so many just random humorous moments. One of my favorite scenes is when Michael and Henry are out talking about what to do, and then you see in the background Erich just kind of go and picking up a weapon and kind of looking at it. Was that in the script, or was that just kind of them goofing? I mean, I guess there wasn't time for them to goof around, so that must have been in the script. But some of the stuff just seems so just kind of random, and I wasn't sure where the script ended and we're just kind of their improv, or because there are a lot of improv backgrounds here, where that kind of took over.
So that was I came up with the idea for how to shoot that scene the day before we shot it. And it was on the page. There's nothing with Adam in the background waving a sword around, and I was like, ooh. Once I found the spot I wanted to shoot the scene, and I was like, well, I could see into the doorway if I am angled right here. And I was like, okay, to my DP, I want to do this. Do we have enough lights to light up the inside of the house so that we can make this scene work? And he's like, he was all about it. He's like, oh, hell yeah, we're gonna make that work. I love it. So it was just one of those things that developed. Day one, I couldn't have done a shot like that because as you're like, I kind of know the temperament of the film, but it's only when you're there on set getting the performances that you kind of know the film you're gonna get. And I'm like, oh, you know what? This is a film where I can get away with that ridiculous, over the top slapstick humor. And so I, pitched it to, or rather, I didn't pitch. I asserted we're going to do this, and the Erich was Erich was all about it, and he was every take he was doing something new there, and I'd say like throughout the film, as I was getting to know them and their characters, we were like going for the extreme version of each take that we could. I had a thing that I would call the fuck it take, wherein once I get the lines the normal way, once I get the take that I think I can use, here is my fuck it take, and you can do the scene however you want. Don't worry about hitting your mark exactly in the light. Don't worry about like character continuity. I want you to go nuts and go wild. And so giving that opportunity to all the performers, I actually got a lot of wild takes throughout the production, and you see some of that weirdness, I suppose, and maybe like absurd humor happening on account of the fuck it takes. But for a lot of the like the sight gags, like that's Erich in the background with the weapon, or let's say finding the eyes of the cheese grater and tapping the nose, like that one's like me. I'm like, okay, my wife had pointed out it looks like a face, and I'm whispering to Erich like, you gotta bop his nose. And actors that go along for the ride, they get it.
Yeah.
But like I'd say a lot of that's planned, but you need the actors that are going to fill in the gaps, and there's a lot of moments where I am using the fuck it takes in the edit because what they're delivering is so wild. Well, there's one that I really love when Chris is holding the knife and he's sitting on the table and he's aiming it at Adam and Barrett, and Mikelen or Chris just begins laughing, and he's like giggling, holding the knife. That's like not something we rehearsed or planned. I think he was tired, or like, he just got like a power trip in the middle of the scene. But like when you see, if you watch Erich's reaction there, Erich doesn't know what's happening because like why is Mikelen laughing? And why is this knife so close to me? And you see like Erich getting furious,
visibly scared.
And it's great. And it was like, because Mikelin's not hitting his marks, like the camera's going in and out of focus. And like Ashley, my first AC, is like trying to keep up with the focus. But I'm like, I love it. I love how panicked everything is. Like the camera doesn't know what's going on. The performers don't know what's going on, and everyone is just continuing on with the scene because they must trundle forward. And that's like, well, that's the take I have to use because I've seen that scene in other movies. I've never seen it like this. And it's like, well, that's the one I have to go with because it's reaching a fever pitch within the scene, but it also matches the fever pitch of where we are in the film. And so it's just another very, again, long-winded way of saying, some of those random or absurd moments, come from me on the spot. Some of them come from planning and, Three Stooge gags that like I kind of wanted to make happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then some are just from the actors like going nuts.
That's awesome. No, that's great. No, yeah, I love hearing that scene was just kind of a random exhaustion, genius, somewhere in between. But that's awesome to hear.
Oh, it was fun. It was really fun. I had like, dude, this movie was so fun to make, and like I think it shows everyone's committed on film. There's like not a moment where they're like phoning it in. Like they're in it the entire time.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's something that I saw as well. Like everyone's kind of bought in. It's a ridiculous dark comedy, but you've got everyone kind of going full bore into it, and then that I think that contributes to a lot of the fun of admittedly dark subject matter, but you kind of get around that with some of the insane humor that happens.
It's pretty dark, and I appreciate your use of the verbiage ridiculous, because like I think some people are afraid to make a. I'm not afraid for the film to be ridiculous, because it is. It's absolutely absurd. Like, and these guys are not, the most, they're not our Ocean's 11 crowd that know how to navigate. They're just like a group of numbskulls doing their best,
Mhm.
and they're flooded with this very intense situation, and they're trying to be smart about it, but they're like every step of the way, someone's fucking something up.
Yeah, no, definitely. And oftentimes it's Adam, but sometimes it's someone else. But yeah, that's part of the fun.
Usually Adam, but yeah.
Usually Adam. So the murder wall.
Yes.
How did you make that? Do you have like a doomsday bunker full of weapons for the upcoming zombie and or COVID apocalypse? Like, how did that come together?
My wife. So the murder wall in my mind, it went through a lot of iterations, and my wife went on Craigslist and found this perfect piece of furniture that happened to fit the specs of the cabin we were to shoot in by less than an inch.
Oh my gosh.
Like up to the ceiling with half an inch to spare. And it fit the surroundings from doorway to opening. So that looks like it belongs on, it looks like it's part of the home, but it's actually just something my wife found. We paid for it, and she took it home. We took it home, and my wife was pregnant with our daughter at the time. And I wake up one morning to the sound of a buzzsaw, and I go in the living room, and there she is, like my pregnant wife with a buzzsaw, like buzzing into this furniture, like zzz, and like cutting out the entire center of the murder wall, and then inlaying the red fabric, putting lights in there. Like,
oh wow,
yeah, she is an incredibly creative person, but like incredible production design and thinking about, well, what's going to be visually striking in the film, like that's going to always be behind Victor Von Stubbs when he's talking.
Yeah.
And the weapons, with the exception of the bear trap, which I had made specifically for the film by a man named Ross in New York, I found on Craigslist. All the other weapons were real, and they came from friends of mine or my mother. And
okay. Well, we can just leave that at that.
Yeah. I haven't returned all the weapons yet. Some of them are in my garage, and there's a lot, and they could kill.
Sounds like you should probably return the ones to your mother, because it sounds like she probably has more, and she knows where you live. So I would get those back to her.
Yeah, my mom is the bear rug in the film, the animal heads, those are all for my mom as well.
And so the bear trap, was that a functioning bear trap, a prop bear trap, somewhere in between?
Do you want me to get it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Hold on one moment.
Excellent. Don't hurt yourself.
Okay. So
let's see this.
Sorry about the wait.
Nice.
Had to like gut my closet real quick. This is not a functional bear trap. Though it looks like it.
Yeah, no, it looks very authentic.
These are leather straps painted to look like wood and rusted metal.
Mm-hmm.
This is wood. These are foam. The spikes are foam.
Okay.
And the reason I would have it made, as opposed to, using like a non-functional bear trap, and this does close. There we go. It does close. Is because bear traps are not usually round. Like, this is like a cartoon version of a bear trap.
Oh.
They're
I
usually,
didn't know that.
yeah, and you'll find them in like beaver traps and bear traps. They're frequently square, but in my mind, in all the like Looney Tunes and cartoons, like they're round. And so I was like going nuts trying to find a round bear trap, and I'm like, there are many things I can concede on in the creation of this film, but the one thing I cannot concede on is like the bear trap has to be round and ridiculous. It has to look like what we see in a cartoon. So this guy, Ross Chikiro, he makes props for film as well. He made this, sent it to me, and it was like perfect. Like, yeah, it's awesome. So very very light. There is that shot in the film when he backs up into the bear trap. Actually, just like accidentally fell on his head. Like it's foam, but like it wasn't designed for that. But it's just like a happy accident that when he backed up, it went. And we're like,
that's perfect.
Yeah, we got to use that take then. So yeah, that is the bear trap. I love it, and I've learned the value of getting props made for the film. It was like the most expensive prop on the set,
but well worth it, because I agree. Like if that was square, I'm sure it would have worked, but round is, it looks better. It's kind of a nice central piece for the murder wall.
I think we all have visual shorthands, and like if you see a square bear trap, I think you'll spend an extra moment questioning, wait, is that a bear trap? What is that? I don't want you to think about that. I want you to see this and go, bear trap, even though bear traps do not look like this, apparently, in real life. So this is it.
Well, who would know? I mean, I've never said a bear trap. I guess maybe you have at this point, but
I've seen a lot now.
Yeah. And the cabin, it was up in, I guess, Northern California, north of San Francisco. I guess, how did you find this cabin? Was it just, location scouting, or some very nice person let you bring a ton of weapons into their house? Or?
Yeah, Airbnb. I found it, and it was like the perfect remote location, and I drove up to them. I had written them like, I want to film a movie there, and I drove up there to tell them, like, I'm serious. Like, I want to make a movie here. I need your permission to like make this happen, because we can't do half a movie and then lose the location. That'll ruin the production. And they agreed to it. And yeah, they were super cool. Scratched up the floors. They had new floors, and had to replace the floors. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm happy to help them recoup the loss of their new flooring they just put in. But things happen. Gaffers walking around with lights, people with their shoes on. Like, it's like, yeah, of course it's gonna get scratched up. Yeah. But it was Airbnb, and so glad we went that route.
Yeah, no, that cabin was perfect. It really kind of felt like the perfect place for this scenario to happen.
Yeah, it was hard to film in there sometimes, because that bathroom is like unreasonably small for filming, but we made it work.
Just cut some people up a little bit, and just make them conform. It's fine.
Absolutely, that was the that was the motto. If you can't all fit through the door together, we're gonna shim you down.
Yeah, there's a sacrifice for the film. I'm sure this was intentional, but I noticed it on my second viewing of it. The characters, they were all dressed like game pieces. They had the bright colors, and that, I thought that was awesome. I assume that was intentional.
Thank you. Yeah, totally. I told my wife, who also did the costume design, I want them to all be color coordinated as in their game pieces, because again, I believe in visual shorthand. I don't believe in being realistic. At least that's not my style. So I wanted a visual shorthand. So we're always thinking about them in the context of the game that they're playing, but also them in the context of, this scenario they put themselves into. So thinking of them as game pieces, I think is part of the fun. And honestly, they just they all looked really good in their colors. Especially, I have to say, Mikelen is Chris in the yellow, who he's the only actor that put up a little bit of resistance. Like he's like, oh man, I don't look good in yellow, and I was like you're wrong. You're gonna look great in yellow, and he does. He looks amazing. Like he pops like a star, like which is the intention behind that. But he was like, yeah, okay, and he kept the jacket when we were done filming. Like I've converted you. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you have all those weapons. You can go get the jacket back if you really need to. The first time seeing it, I was like, oh, this is not like, I like the bright colors. It kind of lightens the mood of this film. And then the second, I was like, oh, now I see why they're doing that. That was a nice touch. I also loved the music because it has this kind of like, it's like there's classical instruments, there's a lot of clarinet in there, but then there's also like some electronic beats underneath it, and it gets more frenzied. And I saw that you had a soundtrack specifically made for this, but who did the music, and kind of how were you able to kind of perfectly meld it in with what's going on with the film?
At UCLA, I went to school with a fellow named Jonathan Snipes. And he is, again, sorry to bring up UCLA again, but this film is very UCLA centric.
Some good things do come out of UCLA.
Yeah, a few. Jonathan Snipes and I used to do collaborations throughout college. He did the music for some of my pieces in college, and I always knew, like, well, if I ever do a movie, he has to compose it. And sure enough, I came to collect all these years later, and he brought on David Rothbaum as his co-composer. And between the two of them, they were into the script, they were into what I was doing, and they had a very, it was very important to me that the music, that the score had melodies. That we could, if we like them, we could remember them, they could get stuck in our head, but also that thematically the music is on the nose with what's happening in the story. So you called out, the clarinet. There's actually 3 woodwind instruments in there. The clarinet, bass clarinet, flute, and they are playing music that typically you might want to play with an orchestra, right? Except that in this context, it's 3 woodwinds playing a lot of these songs without the support of an orchestra. It's kind of like the 3 guys that something big, and then coupled that with a lot of percussion from the film comes from actual board game sounds, like the shuffling of cards, like a boggle, like dice pop, like that's actually integrated into the music. So the score itself is like Latin or interwoven. The gaming is interwoven into like the fabric of the soundscape.
Did you interweave the like at the end of the night, the frustrated person throwing the board game on the floor and like stomping out cursing? Was that in the music as well?
It's a great question. I wasn't there when he did the recordings. I know that when his assistant at the time was the one that was doing a lot of the recording for Jonathan, and I know the assistant wasn't there after they were done. They had begun work on the score itself. So I think there might have been some frustrating dynamics going through board game by board game and recording all these sound effects.
But that's all just part of the art. That the film is better for it. So
yeah.
And again, go ahead.
Score, the rights belong to Jonathan, as Jonathan is an established musician in his own right. He has a pretty awesome rap group called Clipping with David Diggs in it, and another UCLA friend, Bill Hudson. So Jonathan, he scores a lot of great movies. He did Room 237. He did A Glitch in the Matrix, which just came to Sundance a little while back. So he's like established and out there. So the soundtrack was released through the label he's affiliated with, Death Bomb Arc Records.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I saw the soundtrack, and it looks. I'm curious to hear what it sounds like divorced from the film. I'm sure it's great to listen to, but I'm just kind of curious to have that music without what's going on in the film itself, and maybe I'll check it out.
It's great. It's great driving music. Like put it on.
When we used to do that.
yeah. When we did that, yeah.
Okay, so spoilers again for everyone watching. Go watch the movie. I mean, you probably figured out most of what's going on in the film just from the conversation, but this is a big spoiler. You are a very cruel person because, again, on my second watch, there's like a line at the very beginning of the film where Mikelen is talking to Barry, and he's like, one day I'm going to walk through this door with this most badass murder fantasy game, and guess whose name will be on the box? I was like, oh my gosh, that's a fantastic line.
Yeah, mark my words. One day, yeah. Sorry.
No, that was great. I love seeing things differently the second time around. And this film has a lot of those types of references.
Thank you. It is a lot of work writing and rewriting the script to make certain that everything is intentional. Mm-hmm. And there is a lot of that happening throughout the film. And I'm a huge fan of puns as well. And that mark my words moment is, I could be interpreted as, cheeky, but it is literally what's going to happen. Yeah. And it's not to be mean. I'd heard once that what an audience wants and what an audience needs are very different things. And, in my heart, I'm probably closest to Barrett. And, I want nothing bad to happen, to Barrett or to any of these characters because I love them. But that's not what the film needs. What the film doesn't need is a happy ending for everyone, because in this small little, in the ecosystem in which they live, in which competition is, the means by which you get by, it's imperative that there are consequences to that. Mm-hmm. And the people who thrive in competitive situations will go on with a smile on their face, and the people who don't really like to be a part of that system, they're not going to make it. And so I definitely, because I've the response to the film has been really interesting, because there are people that are like, you're sick, Michael, you're a sociopath, you're mean. And it's like, what? I get it, but like, that's not what I wanted to do, but I had to do it. Because that moves the conversation forward. It's made some people livid. And that's been really interesting. And I think that the things that happen needed to happen. And I agree, they suck, but sometimes you have to kill your darlings in order to, make the point that you want to make, or ask the question that you want to ask.
Yeah, no, and I definitely think that had this film ended with some of the more traditional types of endings, like, oh, they bury him and then they go off to success, or like they're burying him and they get caught by the cops, like that wouldn't have been as interesting or fun. I mean, yeah, it was a fun ending as what actually happened. And then seeing Adam's just amazing commercial at the end during the credits, like that just tied everything. Like seeing Mikelen's character just crushed over his dream, and then seeing Adam's amazing commercial, like that just kind of was the cherry on top of this film.
Dude, that's the very first thing I ever shot for the film, and that was shot myself in Erich's apartment with a really intentionally bad green screen. Like I found like I lit the green screen really poorly on purpose, and I'm like, I want this to look like he's hired someone for like a few $100, like a kid, to like handle his video. Mm-hmm. And that was the first thing we shot with Erich, and this is like a few months out from filming, and he understood the ending and the tone, and he was like really giddy about like, oh yeah, I win. All right, sweet. It's hamming it up, and I love him for it.
Yeah, his character was just a lot of fun to see, and that, they all were great, but I think he had a certain chaotic elements to the movie. So
Yeah, he's one of the funniest people I know, and he is chaos incarnate.
perfect. So now I'd like to move. I call it the lightning round. It's just lightweight questions that relate to the film and the characters. I want to see how your life relates to things that happen in the film. You can feel free not to answer some of the questions. Maybe you should talk to an attorney before you answer. Just but yeah, you can feel free to pass on anyone. I won't be offended at all.
Okay.
The first question is: do you have a dedicated board game night?
No, I don't. With a daughter who's almost 3 years old, I don't have time for much. Except I will say, whenever she pulls board games out from the cupboard to look at them, I sit down and play with her every time, even though she doesn't understand the rules to anything she does.
I was going to say your board game night is probably when she finds the board games and throws them on the ground. Then you have to sit there and meticulously put the pieces back in their boxes. And
I will say, she loves Clue. I
okay.
love game pieces to Clue, and she knows them. Like she's like peacock, green, mustard. And it's
Oh wow.
Bravo. But sometimes they're missing, and then we'll find the pieces like a week later, either in like the Sorry box or Monopoly Junior, or like next to the toilet. Like she's playing her own game, and we're just unwilling participants in it.
Or they'll be bashed in with a chandelier. Like you just never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Do you have a custom made or a dedicated like board game table?
I technically, the board game table in the film was mine, and it was made for the film, custom, by Uniquely Geek out of Arizona, and
nice.
they're a wonderful company.
Awesome. And now that is your dedicated board game table.
I auctioned it off with Arizona State Fair on behalf of charity. So I do not have it anymore, but I will get a table from them again someday.
Awesome. Well, that's also a very, very good, very, very good gesture as well. So, have you ever Kickstarted a board game?
No, but I've been burned by Kickstarters where I funded and then I never heard from them again.
Oh, yeah, that is one of the risks. I think almost all of my Kickstarters, all my Kickstarters did eventually come through, although one I think has been going on about 6 or 7 years. So
yeah, I get it now that I'm like, when I did my Kickstarter and I was like, and everyone will get their things, in 6 months. I did my Kickstarter 2.5 years ago, and I am going to deliver everything next month. And it's been like, it takes a long time. So I feel for people that, take years and years to do it. I don't feel for people that just disappear with my money.
Yeah.
Just if they said like, I'm not going to be able to deliver and I can't give you back your money. If they owned up, I'd say, okay, it's fine. But disappearing is really shady.
Yeah, no, you see that as well. You see like, there was a story, there was a game that raised a ton of money and then they just didn't realize how difficult it was. And they put like this heartfelt letter of like how tough it was and how they were trying. And I think most of the people were happy with it. They got a few refunds. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you also have all the weapons, so I don't think people can come and get angry at you. So
correct.
When you had your Kickstarter, did you donate to your own Kickstarter to push it over the edge?
No, but you'll love this answer. Can you guess which cast member did? Or if you want to think in terms of characters.
I was gonna say, was it Henry?
He donated to the Kickstarter, and I called him. I was like, dude, you need to let the character go. Like, you don't need to give me money. I paid you to be in my movie. I'll give you whatever thing you want for free. Do not give me money. But he did. He put in like, I don't know how much he put in, but he donated to the campaign, which I thought was absurd, but totally appropriate.
Yeah. Also so poetic, and you beat those characters into them over your 14-day stress march, and they're part of them now.
yeah.
What is your favorite board game?
Pandemic.
Oh, that's a good game. That's a very fitting game as well.
I thought it would prepare me.
Did
Um,
not.
it's so much worse in real life, but it's the best kind of game. Have you played it?
So I bought it because I thought I would want to play as well, and it's still in shrink wrap, but I do own it.
It is wonderful. It's if you can get together with one or two or three friends, it's just like the best collaborative game in that you all win together or you all lose together. And that is my favorite type of gaming experience.
And so very fitting for our current time, right?
Yes. Very,
Uh,
very.
well, that's all. And well, so I will try Pandemic. You should
It's
also try it, and then everyone should also watch Murder Barry Win. So,
yeah.
What is your favorite die?
You know, I that's a great question. Like it's not like a D20. That just kind of overwhelms me.
That's
But
a good answer.
I don't know what's your favorite?
So mine is the D100 because it's just so absurd, and like you roll it and it's rolling forever and it kind of stops and you look up, you're like, I think it's this number. I just kind of love the ridiculousness of this, larger than a ball size die.
Yeah, I mean, that's I mean, I can't say that I've ever rolled a D100, but like yeah, I think I like the stress that comes with trying to identify which one it actually landed on.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, it's like this big, so it dwarfs all your other die. I guess outside of that one, I think the D4, I like kind of its, simple shape and, kind of the the non-traditional way that you have to read the number on it. So,
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever quit your job over email?
So I left a note once. I just like left a laptop and I put a note on there, and I don't think I said much. I didn't try to do anything offensive on the note, but it was something to the equivalent of like, I will not return. And it was like lame. And then I got an email from HR saying like, wait, did you quit? like so technically I did quit over email.
Yeah, officially you did. There you go.
Yeah, I guess I did, and I didn't feel good about it. I felt like, damn it, it doesn't work like in the movies. Like I thought it was clear I would not return.
You didn't run off into the sunset and jump in the air and then life pause as you left and started living your life now?
No. No, it was a shameful exit.
Have you ever met your idol?
Yes.
All right.
In 2015, my wife got a gig working as the art director and costume designer for 2 Modest Mouse music videos.
Oh, cool.
At least at the time, were my favorite band. And I, of course, like I got to tag along and help her and help, design some of the costumes. And for a 2-week period, especially with the second music video, we lived in Modest Mouse's recording studio, like right next to where they rehearsed. And we were just literally like there on little beds in the middle of their recording space, and spent a lot of time with them. And a lot of people say don't meet your idols. I'm like, okay, well then work with them, because working with your idol is going to be a different experience than just meeting them. And I had a wonderful time. And whenever they're around, I come and say hello.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
It's pretty cool. I don't know if you're familiar with their music or any of their music videos, but in the music video Lampshades on Fire, there's a couple that is dressed identically in it's like a circus outfit, red blazer and stripy pants, and a woman is slapping a guy with a frozen fish. I'm the guy and my wife is the girl.
There you go. That's a perfect IMDb profile right there.
Yeah, slap.
Have you ever used lie?
I shouldn't have had. No,
Okay.
no, not yet.
Okay.
I mean, never will.
As far as we know, that's on the record. What?
Yeah, no.
What does your internet search history look like right now?
Oh my God, dude. Every day or every other day, like I look up, murder Barry Wynn, and it's like, like murder pops up so frequently, like in my algorithm, like if I'm putting in like a search string in Google, like, what's it like to, and then murder will pop up. Like, and when I was developing the screenplay and I was researching ways to murder, I actually thought that was hilarious because I looked at my search history and I'm like, oh my God, that's a gag in and of itself. So whatever I'm, researching in terms of like a screenplay, you're gonna see a lot of that in my search history. Right now, it's a lot of murder and burying and winning.
Sounds perfect. And that I loved that gag as well. Like that, just kind
Thank
of
you.
thinking when they all looked at their search history, is all just various iterations of how to dispose of a body. That was perfect.
I thank you. I'm really fond of that one. That usually gets the biggest laugh from people, just because it's very contingent on like where you look, because there's too much to read
Mhm.
in the moment. But wherever your eyes land, you're gonna see something there that's like that's like shouldn't be there.
Yeah,
That would be incriminating. So my wife and I came up with those, and I was satisfied with how it worked.
perfect. And so the last question is: You have killed me. How did you do it, and how are you going to dispose of my body?
So I borrowing inspiration from the Japanese film Cold Fish, which I believe is by Sono Shion, and I don't necessarily recommend it because it's dark as hell. I
With a slapstick, undertone, or
she,
just dark?
so dark, so dark. Upon getting rid of upon your unfortunate accidental death, David, I put you in a large tin barrel,
Mhm.
and set it on fire. However, once the tin barrel was done and there were only bone bits remaining, I went out to the forest. This is all happening remotely. No one could find me.
Yeah,
Uh,
I assume it's at the cabin.
yeah.
Yeah.
Grabbed a big, very powerful stick, and I began bashing in the bones and grinding them for hours and hours until it's just little tiny bits. You would never know that those were bits of skeleton, and basically like ground down so much that they would just fly away in the wind. And so I take those little grinded up bits and throw it to the earth.
That is a very poetic way to die, and it sounds like you kind of earned it, right? Like all that effort. Yeah.
It's from Coldfish.
Mhm.
Again, I don't necessarily recommend it. I think it's quality, but I don't like it. I think it's like well made, but I don't enjoy it. But
Mhm.
that when I saw that method of disposing of a body, I was shaken for a long time, and it still haunts me because it's just a really like unsettling way to disappear from the earth. And yeah, anyway, if you're have free time, watch it or don't. But
Yeah.
it's remarkably long stretch of time that they take care of a body, and it's like, ugh, that's disturbing.
If I'm ever having a really great day and I just want to mellow out my mood, I'll watch Coldfish.
Yeah, yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
So the film is out. It came out last month. It's available digitally. You can rent it, buy it, watch it at home. Go out in the cabin and watch it at your board game nights, wherever you want to. Uh, you know, I assume you're taking a nice break after this whirlwind ride, but what's next for you? Do you have other projects, other films on the horizon, or you just kind of realize that making a film is very difficult and taking some time?
Well, I filmed this 3 years ago, and it probably the the duration of time would have been lessened if I had more money and had more people attached. So I've learned a lot in the process, and I know I will make another movie. I have about 4 projects I'm developing, and I'll call them bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And if anyone else wants to pay for them, they could handle anything from silver up. If I'm paying for it, I'm doing bronze. But no matter what, I will make a movie again, and they're all in the genre bending vein, and a lot of them are horror comedy centric and pretty pretty deep into developing one I really love with Jonathan Snipes, my composer, a musical horror that I'm really excited about, and
Ooh,
be pretty fun.
that is another combination that I'd love to hear and see.
It's coming together, and I'm hoping to film it in the next few years.
That sounds awesome. Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
I love this film. I've already said it many times, but I love this film. It was such a kind of nice surprise, and I can't wait to see what's next. So thank you so much for your time and for discussing Murderberry Win.
I had a great time talking to you. Thank you so much, David, and I appreciate your enthusiasm for the film. And yeah, let's stay in touch.
Sounds good. Thank you. That was Michael Lovan, the director and co-writer of Murderberry Win. It's a fun, dark comedy that features board games and true crime. So what's not to like about it? If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot to make sure all my new interviews go straight to you. And as always, please go to watcherpass.com for all your movie reviews, interviews, and recommendations. Thank you.